So today I want to get into the problems with marijuana or cannabis, however you want to enunciate it. And I want to first share with you all what prompted me to do this. And then I'm going to go into some alternatives, some negatives, some of the best ways to actually, use it. And then some of the things that you can help with your brain function, you feel me, throughout the day, and to identify whether you even have problems or not whatsoever. So we're going to get into this. So I know a lot of people is high right now. A lot of people are high right now, and you probably don't want to hear me talk about marijuana. The reason that I'm going to talk about it, right, because there is some issues with marijuana and the effects that it has on the brain, right? And this is science-based things. This is not what you feel when you get high. That, to me, I don't have a problem with. I really don't care. You can have an issue with this. A lot of you all, you may own a dispensary. You may sell it, right? You may smoke a lot, and you feel that it helps you particularly probably ease your stress or your anxiety. You most likely smoke it during that area, and then you probably become super reliant on it to the point to where you got to always smoke weed. And if you don't smoke weed, you probably have more anxiety when you're not high and you're sober. And a lot of you all probably can't stop smoking weed, marijuana, cannabis. I don't understand why you all have different names and what does it matter if it's a different name. I'm talking about the same substance, right? Now, I used to smoke weed and I used to sell weed, right? So I know what I'm talking about. And I sold a lot of weed when I sold it, and I smoked a lot of weed when I smoked it, right? And it's a lot of members in my family today that smoke a lot of weed, right? And I've seen the negative effects. First of all, I want to deal with that. Everybody is different, right? Everybody isn't Snoop, right? And Snoop is in the 1 percentile class. He has tens of millions of dollars, and he has a whole entire team to do stuff for him, right? Black men specifically have the worst mental health, right, in America. So I have a vested interest of seeing us perform at a high level and have our executive functions operate at a high level. And the reason why most people won't tell you this is because you know somebody. The reason most people won't tell you this is because you know somebody that smokes. You know somebody who sells weed, right? And you know somebody who has a dispensary or product. So therefore, even if you have a negative issue, right, or experience with it, you won't speak on it because weed has become a religion to where the people who smoke never say anything negative whatsoever. The problem with that is that everybody's different. So while one person can smoke weed for 30 years and maybe it doesn't affect them the same way, when somebody else that smokes weed and they have underlying issues and mental health issues in their family, such as bipolarism, schizophrenia, right, and other different things, this can make their issues harder. I mean, not harder, but exacerbate. This can make those issues, increase faster and show up, right? So I've seen this in my own family to where people who smoke, all of a sudden, their mental issues start to peak, right? So now their mental illnesses start to show because it ran in the family. And somebody else that's their friend or somebody that they know, they smoke and they ain't got no problem, right? And this is something that we don't talk about at all because everybody is focused on their experience. So it's never a nuanced conversation. So people who sell it is never going to put a warning on it to say, hey, if you got these issues in your family, then this could make your mental illness worse. They never going to say that, right? They're never going to put any warning label. Now, if they did, I would respect it more. I would respect it way more. But most people do not do that whatsoever, right? And then we don't talk about the different forms of intake when it comes to cannabis. People always talk about the cannabinoid system and it being in our bodies and things of that nature, but we don't talk about the way that you smoke weed. When you put fire to it, changes the chemical compound of weed. Fire changes the chemical compound of everything once you smoke it, right? And it becomes a toxin to the brain, slowing down blood flow and decreasing motivation. Now, I'm not the person to debate you on any of this because debating, right, is for the experts. And I don't consider myself to be a super expert on the subject. of particularly marijuana or cannabis or weed. That's what people like Dr. Wesley. Dr. Wesley wrote an entire book on the chemicalization of marijuana, right? And the effects that it has on the body and the brain, and exactly what happens to your estrogen and your testosterone while smoking. And he found out, of course, while smoking and while it's in your system, it decreases your testosterone, it increases your estrogen, and has the opposite effect for women, increasing that estrogen. On top of that, some of you ladies, y'all shouldn't smoke because aesthetically it don't look good on you. Your eyes start to look all low, and then you start getting them little black lips and little black rings around your eye. You know what I mean? And then your attractiveness decreases, and you gonna have to put on extra makeup to try to keep up for it. Now, the problem that has arrived with, I think, marijuana, and I'm probably gonna do a deep dive in this to bring out all of the science and just have it laid on the table. Because here's the thing. You can smoke and you can do whatever you want to with your life, but please listen to all the information regarding it, especially information that's not aligned with your current beliefs. If it's not aligned with your current beliefs, it's even better, right? Because now you're getting non-biased information and perspective for you to make decisions. But oftentimes we only want to listen to things that are aligned already with what we believe, and anything outside of that we disregard. So therefore, you're never going to be able to intake truth or add any value to your experience.
Somebody said some of us can't sleep.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's deal with that, because there's a lot of things that can help you sleep, right? And I made a list of it. So everybody has ChatGPT, right? You have Google, right? Right? So first of all, let's not act like weed is the only plant that has effects within the mind and the body, or the brain and the body. Number one. And that's why I put out that list of different things that you can utilize, right? Because you're talking about increasing melatonin within the body so you can get to that proper rest, which there are multiple factors that you can do. You're talking about stress. And when you talk about stress, you have all sort of different techniques that one can utilize when it comes to decreasing their stress, right? So, I mean, even small things from breathing tools that people can utilize, ashwagandha that people can utilize, and even CBD, right? Not in the smoking form, but in the CBD form, which has the medicinal benefits. People don't talk about that enough because people want the psychoactive effects of it so that they can feel high. Now, 90% of people that I know that smoke weed, they don't smoke it for medicinal benefits at all. They smoke it for the psychoactive benefits so that they can feel high. Now, it's been shown that a lot of people used to say weed makes me more creative. It's shown that weed does not improve creativity whatsoever. Weed makes you feel more creative, which is a different thing. You high and you think your ideas are better. You're high and you thinking, you'd be high. Somebody say, why you dissing women, talking about it makes you look. Listen, I'm being honest. What you want me to cuddle your feelings? Some women, I ain't saying all of them, but y'all know of the women I'm talking about. They smoke so much weed. You feel me? That the lips be getting black and you can tell they smoke. Like if you smoke weed, I don't want to know you smoke weed by looking at you. Right? That means it had an effect on your face and your features. Yeah. Well, it just be like black lips and it'd be like a certain, like, I could just tell a lot of smoke keeps entering around this area. So you just got to think like, how does smoke affect the face? Because it's a toxin to the face. Your face can't breathe as it's hella smoke, right? So you can't get mad at me if that's an effect of it. I ain't forcing you to smoke. I ain't forcing you to look like that. It is what it is. I'm not the one that's forcing y'all to smoke. Y'all can smoke whatever you want to. You can even drink whatever you want to, and I'm sure you do. You feel me? Drinking has the same effects, or has not the same, but it has negative effects on the brain as well. Now, they do brain scans about people and look at people's brains, and they can see the trauma that happens to the brain. And there's these indentions on the brain, right? When we smoke, when we drink, when we go through trauma, all of these different things that need to be corrected. And most of the time, people be talking about their mental health issues and they talking about their brain health issues, right? And this is probably the bigger thing that we miss out, is that the brain health of America, Black America, men and women, is suffering bad. I wouldn't have nothing to say about weed whatsoever if I didn't have personal experiences with it, and I don't personally deal with it in my own family, right? Seeing it make the mental issues and illnesses worse that are in the family. And dealing with younger people that smoke weed is even worse because they have a developing brain that goes through something called pruning. The pruning process of the brain is that we're born with all of these neural attachments, and your brain starts to get rid of things that you don't need, right? And it increases that process when you're smoking weed. So it decreases brain development, right? And we're talking about early adolescent years. So if you smoke weed and you're not somebody that puts out this type of information so that people have the correct way of utilizing it, right? Then that's why I feel like it's a problem, and it's more of a toxic thing than a tonic thing, because it becomes a religion for people. And they act like there's no negative effects at all and everything is just perfect and positive. And science is not making the weed. It's not being organically grown by most people. And if you are a person that organically grows it yourself, kudos. But you know that everybody's not. You know that these dispensaries are making millions. People selling runts. People selling, they got the wax. They got everything. People be looking like crackheads smoking wax out of glass pipes. You feel me? Back in the day in the hood, man, that's when we see the crackheads with the glass pipes. Now people be having the glass pipes hitting it. You feel me? Like, that's crazy. That's crazy work to me. But when you go back in the day, right, people wasn't consuming it the same way that they consume it now. Just like tobacco is not as bad as nicotine, right? It can be positive effects from it, but the way that we consume things today, they don't care about you having beneficial effects. They care about them making money, and what they do is they put profit over people. And anytime that you put profit over people, there's going to be a problem, because then it becomes capital centric and based on capitalism. It's not based on improving your health or your mood or your brain functions whatsoever. And so if you really want to get into the health aspects of it, and you really want to get into the plant medicine, then we can go down the list of some of these herbs and some of these plants, some of this fungi and different things that can actually help you do the very same thing. But how many of you all feel like you actually addicted to weed? How many of you all feel like you actually need it? Like, the moment you feel, I want y'all to understand this, because some people be like, I smoke it every day, I need it to function. You know that's a problem. The moment you rely on the outside substance other than your own self, it's a problem. I just want to make that clear. The only research people do is things that reinforce their point. People don't do no research on, adverse points that people have. Stop it. Cut it out. I ain't never seen weed improve nobody's life, personally. You can, like I said, you can smoke all you want to. I just haven't seen weed increase people's motivation, make them more creative, right? Super increase their focus to where they start making more money, right? And they said, man, the mental health benefits is the reason why I'm so healthy and clear right now and I'm successful. Maybe if you sell it, then yes. But also, I want us to really think about the fact on how you could be having a great relationship with it and somebody else going to be having a terrible one. And if you can't acknowledge that, then that makes you a fool. If you can't acknowledge that the fact that you could be doing it, and you can have you just get high, the psychoactive effects hit you, you got munchies, you vibing, whatever you're doing, that's on you. But if you can't acknowledge that it could be making somebody else more bipolar or schizophrenic or increasing their anxiety and making them addicted and decreasing their motivation, right? Their memory, whatever it may be. If you can't acknowledge those two things to be true, then there's something wrong with you. If we can't acknowledge that, then we can't move forward. If we can't acknowledge that there's some people with mental health issues and underlying mental health issues, and when they smoke, it gets bad for them and it gets worse. It can be tonic for some people and toxic to other people. Even people who sell weed gotta acknowledge that. You know what I'm saying? Even people who sell weed gotta acknowledge, like, yo, I understand that it's good for some people and bad for some people. Why? We all got different genetics. We all got different things that's inside our blood, things that we inherit, things that's going on mentally. You want to develop healthy habits to where you don't depend on anything in that particular capacity to take you out of your mind. Can we acknowledge, let's go to another thing that we can acknowledge. Can we acknowledge that this weed that we have now is not the same weed we had 10 years ago, 20 years ago? It's not the same weed we had 50 years ago, 100 years ago is not nowhere near the same weed that our ancestors had. Can we acknowledge that? They didn't have ramps. They didn't have edibles. Can we acknowledge that? Can we acknowledge that this is an entirely new type of weed and new strains? That the THC levels is way higher than it's ever been in history? Can we acknowledge that at least? Like if we can do this, then go about your day, smoke your weed, and we can move forward. You feel me? We can acknowledge that it's chemicalized and super synthetic in a lot of places. Not all. There's some organic sources. There's always exception to every rule. And let's do this when we have high-level conversations. Do not make it seem like, do not take it as a personal attack. Do not make it seem like I'm making a general rule over everybody and everything when we say one thing. Let's be intelligent and nuanced and be critical thinkers when we are talking and analyzing. Like, let's deal with that. Can we acknowledge the fact that most people do not smoke weed to increase their mental health whatsoever or mental health benefits, right? It's mostly 90% of the people you know that smoke weed is particularly for the psychoactive effect of actually getting high and feeling that high. Like, let's acknowledge that before people start talking about, what about the CBD? What about the cannabis? What about all the medicinal? Stop it. You're not even smoking it for that reason. Like, if we can acknowledge this, then we can start having real conversations about things to where smart people are talking to other intelligent people, right? And they're not personalizing it. You can, me personally, I think all things in moderation are fine. I think you could smoke a little bit. Now, some people, I think you may want to drink a little wine or something. That's what you want to do. Some doctors say even a little bit of alcohol is bad for you. But I think all things in moderation are fine. But when you smoke every single day, 3 total times a day, you a junkie. Can we acknowledge that? You addicted and you a junkie and you over dependent upon it? Can we acknowledge that? Like, if we can acknowledge those, then we can start and we can move forward. If you can't acknowledge the truth, then that's because you want to live a lie. If you can't start with something acknowledging a truth, that's because you only want to live a lie. That means that your perspective and your narrative that you have in your reasoning filter is all based on lies. If you can't acknowledge, oh, well, this is true, but this is true, although I do this is true, and this is true. If you can't acknowledge that, that's because you're comfortable with the lies and the foundation of what you believe is not based on truth. And when people start talking about you can't define other people's truth, you actually can. In some situations, science can define things. There's real science behind things. Everything ain't just about what you feel when you get high. Some things are actual science-based. And the science-based is something that covers more of the mass general population. Your personal experience does not matter in a conversation when we're having a conversation on a topic that is about the masses. So even if only 10% of people had underlying negative effects when they smoke weed, that's still a high level of the populace that I would want to warn and give that scientific study to, so that they can know whether they should customize their efforts in decreasing their anxiety and their stress and things of that nature a different way. There's so many people in jail right now, not because they're criminals, but they got mental illnesses. I know so many black men right now that need to be able to focus, right? And the way that they cope with the mechanisms of lack of manifestation in their life is they get high. Is they try to go over socialize. It's through sexualization or sex and like lust and like smoking and drinking and gaming and all of these things to try to numb pain. I get why it happens. We come from traumatic environments. So we use substances to try to numb that thing that we really going through instead of actually dealing with what we're going through. I understand. Marijuana has helped you not have to deal with the reality. Liquor has helped you not have to deal with reality. And for some of you all don't want to hear this, shrooms. I've seen people take shrooms and I've seen their mental illnesses pop up, the spirits they got going on underlying. I've seen it when they've done too much and consistently. I've seen the same thing happen when it comes to shrooms. Because you get addicted to the psychoactive effects. And you don't even think about how is it affecting the brain, throwing it off balance. I've seen it happen. And if we can't and this is the part that we need to acknowledge the most. The benefits have already been pushed as a narrative. The benefits are already propagated. For the people that needs to customize the way they deal with things based on who they are, this is not the conversations that's being had nowhere. If you want to do your shrooms, your weed, your liquor, and things of that nature, at least be well researched on it so that you can do it and incorporate it in your lifestyle in a way that is not affecting you in any negative ways, but you're getting the benefits in a positive way. It's the same thing with eating sugars. It's the same thing with intaking synthetic chemicals inside your household that's for daily cleaning, and you getting those fumes and it's messing with your brain. It's the same thing with having the volume in your earphones too high. All of these things gonna mess with your brain. It's the same thing by not taking and eating brain foods that have antioxidants in it that help the brain. Like there's detriments and there are benefits, so what we really talking about is the brain itself and how does it affect the brain. The same thing, yes, caffeine can be the same. Dairies can be the same. Artificial sweeteners can be the same. Even social isolation, spending so much time alone, right, can be the same. There's many different things that affect. Same thing in this one, we all guilty of. Screen time. Spending too much time with the screen, throwing the brain off its natural circadian rhythm, right, with these artificial blue lights. Somebody say it's hard to OD on nature. No, it's not. You take too much of anything, and whatever it is activating, if it's doing it too much, then that's a problem. It can throw off the balances within your system. I'm going to say this. I think that if you go do shrooms, it should be for microdosing. I'll go on record to say that there's a level of shrooms that you can do for microdosing that I think has beneficial cognitive effects. But when they start making it legal and these companies take over and you start getting these synthetic mushrooms and artificial mushrooms, then that's when it gets dangerous. That's when it gets a little dangerous. That's when you want to be careful. When you start seeing these tech companies making it and stuff like that, that's when it's like, you may be defending it from a point of natural and organic substance, but now that product that you're defending is corrupt and artificial. I want you all to study myelination in the brain. So myelination in the brain, right, is that process to where you start to develop what they call sheath, which is an insulation around the neurons that make them work more efficiently so your thoughts can travel. Electricity travels, right? Myelination. And as you smoke, this process can become decreased. So you're not thinking as fast as you would. That's why you can get stuck and be like, because the thought is literally not connecting. It's like them old PS2 systems and PS3 systems that used to be loading all day. Your brain just stuck in loading mode. So as we develop, especially past the age of 25, they used to say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and we found out that that was a lie. It just, your brain has to be stimulated in a different way, right? So that white matter in your brain continues to grow. So the myelination process, the sheath around your axons that allow the electricity and the signals to send from one neuron to the other, right? So that your brain can work more efficiently. It's that process starts to slow down. So you have to speed it up. You got to work out, right? You have to learn, educating yourself, reading, right? You be in nature, ground yourself, because everybody start talking about they love weed because it's natural, but ain't been in nature. Ain't took a hike in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, talking about some nature. Well, you don't know nothing. Niggas don't be doing nothing about no nature. That don't be knowing nothing about no nature. Talking about some, this is nature. Boy, you ain't been to a park in 30 years. Ain't talking about some nature. Boy, y'all be killing me sometimes. I be laughing. I love y'all. I would not take my time out of my day to talk to y'all about things that I think could possibly have a benefit to your life if I didn't love y'all. If I didn't have this energy for love for y'all. Because there's a lot of people that don't like when I speak on, and a lot of people who follow me. I know a lot of my followers smoke weed. They thought high-level conversations was us getting high and talking. They thought we was getting high and speaking. That's why they first watched. No, a lot of my guests smoke weed. The homies smoke weed. You feel me? People smoke weed. I get it. I just, for the people, like I said, I'm speaking on my family. I think that the men in my family should not smoke weed purposely. Like, I've seen this. I've seen too many of my family members do hard drugs, right? From all the drugs you can think of to weed and things of that nature. And I've seen the negative effects that it had on the men in my family. So I'm speaking from a real place of experience. You know what I mean? Seeing people do coke in front of me, crack in front of me. You know what I mean? I'm in high school having to go to school the next day, and it's messing up the way that I like see them and view the world. And then I see